Welcome all. In this lecture I am going to discuss about the concept of subgroups, and the content of the lecture is from the textbook of Mathematical Methods for Physics and Engineering by Riley, Hobson and Benz. So what is a subgroup? A subgroup of a group G can be formally defined as any non-empty subset H of G, the elements of which themselves behave as a group under the same rule of combination as applies in G itself. So suppose G is a group, it is a bigger group, and for the group G we choose a subset H, that is containing some of the elements of G. There is a subset H. If we call the set of elements in group G, we may call that there is a subset that is containing some of the elements of G. We are consisting or composing a subset H, and for the subset H, that is the H is also a group under the same law of composition for the group G. In that case we will call H as the subgroup of G. As for all groups, the order of the subgroup is equal to the number of elements it contains. So the order of the subgroup H, we may call it small h, where small h is the number of elements in H. Any group G contains two trivial subgroups. The first is G itself, and the set I consisting of the identity element alone. So any group G has two trivial subgroups, the group itself and the identity. All other subgroups of G are known as proper subgroups, that is excluding the whole group G and the identity. All other subgroups are known as proper subgroups. But to understand the properties of the subgroup, I will request the viewers to go through the lecture of group multiplication table, because the concept of group multiplication table is required to understand the concept of the subgroup. For example, in a group with a multiplication table 28.8, the elements I, A, B form a proper subgroup. So do I, A in a group with table 28.3. So the table 28.8 and 28.3 we have already discussed before. So in that case, the three elements I, A, B for the table 28.8 and the elements I, A for 28.3 is the example of proper subgroup. So let me show you again those tables. That is these tables. This is one of the table and this is another table. So IAB, the elements IAB, and that is the example of a proper subgroup for this particular group IABCDE. And for this table I and A, the elements I and A they form a proper subgroup. But the point is that some groups have no proper subgroups. Here I have shown some example of subgroups, that is a particular bigger group contains some subgroups. For example, IAB is a subgroup and IA is a subgroup. But some groups have no proper subgroups. For example, the so-called cyclic groups, which was mentioned in my earlier lectures, they have no subgroups other than the whole group or the identity alone. So, what is cyclic group? I will show you again. A cyclic group is one for which all members of the group can be generated from just one element x. Thus, a cyclic group of order small g can be written as g is equal to I comma x square x cube in this way. That is, the elements are generated from a single element x, and this is the structure of a cyclic group. And the point is that cyclic group has no proper subgroup. So, this is what about cyclic group, but the cyclic groups are always abelian group. Now, I have already shown you that is what is cyclic group, but if we construct a multiplication table for that cyclic group shown just a little bit earlier, so the multiplication table will look like this. So, let me show you the multiplication table. So, this is the multiplication table of two cyclic groups of order 3 and 5. So, in the cyclic group just shown a little bit earlier, I have shown that the group is like x comma x square comma x cube. In this way, ultimately x to the power m will be equal to I, where m is the order of the group. Now, here I have shown two groups. One is for order 3, that is value of the m is 3, and another group is the order 5, that is the value of m is 5. So, these groups have been shown with a particular nomenclature, that is you have to write the value of x is equal to a, then x square is equal to b in this way, and there will be one identity element I. That is, you have to use a particular nomenclature, but you have to keep in mind that is the elements a, b, c, d, these are generated from a particular element x. So, then we have to calculate the different product between their elements, and you have to construct the multiplication table. The concept of multiplication table was already discussed in the earlier lecture. So, I request the viewers to go through that content very carefully, so that you can understand that is how to construct the multiplication table. So, these are the multiplication table for the cyclic group of order 3 and 5, but here the point to be noted that they have no proper subgroups. So, cyclic group have no proper subgroups, and it may be mentioned that these are of order 3 and 5, but if you construct a multiplication table of order 4, which was already discussed in table 28.6 in earlier lecture. So, in that case also the cyclic group has no proper subgroup. So, whatever be the order, the cyclic group has no proper subgroup. Now, it should be mentioned that suppose if you look at this table, that is 28.10b, if you start with a particular element such as d, so d means it is x to the power something, it is some power of x, and the repeated combination with itself, that is if you repeatedly combine with d, for example, suppose d into d, then d into d into d, that is d square d cube step by step, then ultimately it will give you the values of c, b, a, I, and finally d again. That means it will start from c. Suppose if you want to multiply d, that is if you want to combine d with itself, Then step by step it will give you the values in this way, that is, at first it will give you C, then B, then A, then I, and finally it will give you D. This is actually the property of the cyclic groups. And as noted earlier, in any cyclic group G, every element apart from the identity is of order small g, that is the order of the group itself. But here point to be noted that cyclic group does not have any proper subgroup. The order of any group is a multiple of the order of any of its subgroups. This is very important sentence, and this is the statement of the Lagrange's theorem, which we will prove later. But we have to keep in mind that is the order of any group. The order of any group is a multiple of the order of any of its subgroups. That is, in our general notation, if small g is a order of the bigger group capital G, and suppose it has a subgroup of order small h, so g small g should be the integral multiple of small h. And it thus follows that for a group of order small p, suppose there is a group whose order is small p, but p is a prime number. If p is a prime number, then it cannot be the integral multiple of something. So we can say that the group whose order p is prime, that must be cyclic in nature, because it cannot have any proper subgroups. And groups of non-prime order, if order of a particular group is non-prime, then what can happen, that is, it may have a subgroup or may not have a subgroup. For example, the table 28.3, it means what we have shown here, this this table has a proper subgroup because its order is non-prime. You see, 1 2 3 4 total 4 elements are there, so it has proper subgroup. But there is a table which is not shown here, but it was shown in table 28.6. its order was 4, but it has no proper subgroups. So the groups of non-prime order may or may not have the proper subgroup. Now we will discuss some properties of the subgroup. The first property is this: the identity element of G belongs to every subgroup H. So in every subgroup H there should be the identity element of G, because it is a group under the same law of composition of capital G. So there must be the identity element. And if element X belongs to a subgroup H, so does X inverse. So if X belongs to a subgroup H, so X inverse will also be in this subgroup. The set of elements in G that belong to every subgroup of G. Again, you just listen this sentence, that is, the set of elements in G that belong to every subgroup of G themselves form a subgroup. So the elements of G which belong to every subgroup of G, they themselves form a subgroup, though this may consist of the identity alone. In some cases it may consist of the identity alone. Now we will discuss some more properties of the subgroup. So suppose phi is a mapping of G onto G prime, and this is a homomorphism of G into G prime. So phi is a mapping for a homomorphism of G into G prime. Then the set of elements H prime in G prime. So the set of elements H prime in G prime that are images of the elements of G forms a subgroup of G prime. So its meaning is that if capital H is a subgroup in capital G group, then H prime will also be a subgroup in G prime. I am again saying, that is, if capital H is a subgroup in capital G, then H prime will also be the subgroup in G prime. and the set of elements K in G that are mapped onto the identity I prime in G prime forms a subgroup of G. We have already discussed the meaning of kernel in earlier lecture. So the set of elements K in G that are mapped onto the identity I prime in G prime forms a subgroup of G. So those elements of the kernel forms a subgroup of G. Now we have already mentioned that K is known as the kernel of the homomorphism. Now we can prove this two properties. For example, suppose we will prove the property 1. So let Z and W belongs to H prime. So two elements you consider Z and W, and that belongs to H prime with the values, that is Z is equal to X prime and W is equal to Y prime, where the elements X and Y belong to G. So X and Y element belong to G and X prime Y prime elements belong to H prime. Now the product of ZW, that is product of X prime and Y prime, X prime Y prime is equal to XY prime. This is the rule of homomorphism. So the X prime Y prime, as it is equal to XY prime, therefore belongs to H prime. So the product of X prime and Y prime, product of X prime and Y prime, that is the product of image of the product of XY. So it means that the product of X prime and Y prime, they also belong to the H prime, and Z inverse or X prime inverse is equal to X inverse prime. This identity was also proved earlier, but the point is that is Z inverse is equal to image of X inverse. So image of X inverse means it also belongs to the group H prime. So product of two elements belongs to the group H prime, and inverse of a particular element also belongs to the H prime. And there is some identity element I prime which belongs to H prime. So all these results prove that H prime will be a group, or H prime will be a subgroup under G prime. And next we have to prove that the elements of the kernel also form a subgroup. So how to show that? Suppose X and Y belong to K. X and Y are two elements for the kernel K. Now image of XY, image of the product of XY, that is XY prime is equal to X prime Y prime. Now as the elements are from the kernel, so image of X or image of Y, they will be I prime and I prime. So X prime Y prime means I prime dot I prime is equal to I prime. Now this result is actually the closure property, because the product of two elements is in the group K, because product of XY prime is equal to I prime. It means that the product of the two elements in the kernel belongs to that particular set. Again I prime is equal to, we can write as X inverse prime. So according to the rule of homomorphism, this equals to X prime into X inverse prime. Now X prime we can write as I prime, and I prime into X prime inverse is equal to X inverse prime. So I prime is equal to X inverse prime. So therefore the inverse of X belongs to K. So this result indicates that inverse of the element also belongs to the kernel. Product of the elements also belongs to the kernel, and inverse of the element also belongs to the kernel K. And these two results, together with the fact that there is an identity element in the kernel, so the elements of the kernel also form subgroup. Actually whether they are forming a group or not, we are just applying the condition for formation of the group to its elements. That is, we are checking the closure property, the existence of the universe, existence of the identity, etc. And by applying those conditions, we are saying that the elements of the kernel forms the group, and if capital H is a subset or subgroup of G, then H prime will also be a subgroup of G prime, that we have shown here. And an illustration of this result is provided by the mapping phi of R into U1 that we have just discussed in the previous lecture. And there we have said that the kernel consists of the set of real numbers of the form 2 pi n, where n is an integer, and this set of real numbers, that is 2 pi n of the form 2 pi n, they form a subgroup of capital R, where capital R is the additive group of the real numbers. So the set of elements in the kernel 2 pi n will also form a subgroup. In fact, the kernel K of a homomorphism is a normal subgroup of G. Now, what is a normal subgroup? The defining property of such a subgroup is that for every element x in G and every element y in the subgroup, x, y, x inverse belongs to the subgroup. If this holds, then we will say that K is a normal subgroup. Now, how to show that? Suppose x, y, x inverse. X, y, image of the x, y, x inverse will be as per rule of the homomorphism. We can write it x prime, y prime, and x inverse prime. Now, y prime we are writing as I prime. Now, this will be x prime into x inverse prime, but this is actually I prime. As this is I prime, so we can say that the product x, y, x prime, this product belongs to the kernel I prime. So that means this holds, that is x, y, x prime belongs to the subgroup. So as this holds, so that is why we can say that kernel K is a normal subgroup of G. So I hope you have understood about the concept of the subgroup. For more detailed understanding, I request the viewers to go through the textbook of mathematical methods for physics and engineering, and I thank you all for listening the lecture.